Then try to get the predictable info. Then try to get more. Then I.
Good afternoon. For those who have just joined for this session and all who have participated for the morning session, a very warm welcome to the 15th edition National Engineer Day 2024, organized by the Institutions of Engineers Singapore. Between today and the following next few days, we have lined up a series of exciting activities which include seminars, workshop, and learning journey to take on innovating a circular economy through engineering to underscore the significance of the circular economy in bolstering our nation's long-term resilience. It aims to help students and the general public understand and embrace the immense potential of harnessing engineering for waste reduction and increasing resource efficiency. This afternoon session will be Circular Economy Principles, Skills, and Business Opportunity by Professor Siram Ramakrishnan. He's Chief Editor of Material Circular Economy, Associate Editor of Circular Economy, Departments of Mechanical Engineering, College of Design and Engineering of the National University of Singapore. Professor Siram is a world-renowned scholar of crossfield at the National University of Singapore. He's involved in material circular economy solution, editorial works, Ministry of Sustainability and Environment of Singapore on the circular economy competency and skill set, several committee in National Environment Agency, also known as NEA, Circular Economy, Environment and Resource Standards Committee of Singapore, Manufacturing Federations, Singapore Chemical Industry Council, and Standard Development Organization. He has co-authored books in the sustainability arena and holds senior academic leadership in several academies and elected fellows in various associations. He received a PhD from the University of Cambridge, UK, and TGMP from Harvard University, USA. He also received advanced research experience at MIT and Johns Hopkins University, USA, and KIT, Japan. He'll be sharing on circular economy principles, skills, and business opportunity, which present on achieving human progress via a circular economy that emulates the circularity of nature, an auto-balancing feature of our ecospheres. Professor Siram will be happy to take any questions that which you might have. As this is a Zoom webinar, please note that all participants will be muted to minimize any interruption. Please kindly click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen to type your question in the Q&A boxes so that Prof. Siram can address your question accordingly. Also, due to time constraint, Prof. Siram may not be able to answer all your questions. Participants whose questions are not addressed during the webinar shall be responded within 2 weeks after this session. Without further ado, please join me to welcome Professor Siram to share with us on the webinar on circular economy, principle, skills, and business opportunity. Prof. Siram, please.
Thank you. Good morning to all of you. I warmly welcome you to my webinar on circular economy, principles, skills, and business opportunities, hosted by Institution of Engineers, Singapore, on the occasion of National Engineers Day 2024. Being a practicing engineer with a lot of excitement as well as conviction, I advocate circular economy, and I hope circular economy introduction helps you to understand its relevance to your context, your own emerging future. Allow me to give you the background. I have been involved in circular economy for the last 7 years. I work at the National University of Singapore, but I also work very closely with our own premier professional engineering society we call the Institution of Engineers Singapore. My association with the Institution of Engineers Singapore started more than 20 years ago. If you look at the screen on the bottom right-hand side, you actually see Singapore engineers. This was a book commissioned by me when I was the Dean of Engineering at the National University of Singapore 21 years ago. Since then, I worked in various roles at the Institution of Engineers Singapore. I'm there to provide necessary support for the established as well as newly minted engineers in their professional growth and also relevance to the engineering opportunities. So in that particular busy slide, you see me doing many things. That's because whenever Institution of Engineers Singapore asks me for help or support, I volunteer myself and here involved in working what we call IES Green Plan 2030. Similarly, we have a Charles Rudd Distinguished Lecture Series. We also work very closely with the Ministry of Sustainability and Environment with respect to the clean environment, clean energy conferences attended by more than 10,000 people organized every other year. So overall, it has been progressing well. The latest initiative by Institution of Engineers Singapore is a new chartered engineering program, what we call Chartered Engineer for Sustainability. So if you are convinced this is an area of your interest, And I do advise you to get involved and get yourself chartered engineer status recognized by Singapore's Professional Engineer Society. So that's the background. As I was introduced, I work at the National University of Singapore. It is almost close to 30 years I've been working at this university. The building you are looking at, that's actually the main building of engineering. And I served as an engineering dean for 5 years during 2003 to 2008. And that given me the opportunity to understand how we should strategize the future directions of engineering and how we prepare our graduates. That experience led me to strategize and think what are the key important directions for the future of engineering. I am convinced circular economy and sustainability certainly an important feature of future opportunities for engineering profession. And I'm also recognized as one of the important thought leaders at the National University of Singapore. You can check on the website. As an introduction to the work we do at National University of Singapore, 1 in 3 faculty members involved in sustainability research. To give you an idea, NUS is home to close to 50,000 students, 2,500 faculty members. In other words, 1 in 3 faculty members are doing sustainability-related research. It also means we are introducing sustainability, circular economy to the students. So now let me give you the basic idea. What is circular economy? To understand the word circular economy, we need to first understand a linear economy. Last 100 or 200 years, worldwide economic growth is built on linear economy. Allow me to explain. The last 200 years, with industrialization, automation, supplying products worldwide is primarily based on the concept. We take the materials from the planet Earth, we conceive the products, that means we design the products, we manufacture them, and we make the manufactured products available to the people or the customers around the world. At the end of life or at the end of use of the product, customers throw it away. And these are thrown away directly into the ecosystem of the earth, or they're given to the local or regional waste collection systems who later on discard them. So during this process, humanity certainly experienced higher standards of living, but there is also unintended consequence, which is we are contributing a lot of pollution in terms of, say, carbon emissions or greenhouse gas emissions, or hazardous chemicals and materials left in water systems and soil and our nature's ecosystem. And these pollutants are contributing to the climate change. That means extreme weathers, also affecting the health of all the living beings on planet Earth. That includes human beings. So it is increasingly becoming clear to people all around the world, as well as the governments, this linear economic approach is not sustainable given worldwide population is still growing, per capita consumption is still increasing worldwide. So in other words, current linear economic approach is not sustainable. So that led to thinking by the governments as well as industry, as well as non-governmental organizations, what they coined the term called circular economy. So in this circular economy, as the word says, it's a circular. That means we take things from the planet Earth, we make products, we use the products, but we try to repair them, remanufacture them, or recycle them so that we limit or reduce the amount of wastage that is discarded into the Earth system as minimum as possible. A utopian view is if you have a zero discharge or zero waste disposal, that's an ideal scenario. But a circular economy, which is a progressive, infers that we are carefully designing the materials, designing the products, and designing the way we use the products so that at the end of it, we reduce the total wastage that is fed into the Earth system so that we address many things. For example, we can address the shortage of materials. We could also improve the environment. We could also improve the healthcare outcomes of the human beings. So that's an idea. So the rest of my presentation, I would be focusing on circular economy, more details, also looking at what are the skill sets needed, what kind of business opportunities that are emerging in this area. So one important feature is to acknowledge that the amount of material that human beings are mining from planet Earth and how it looked like in the last 60 years. So if you notice, it's constantly increasing worldwide. That includes low-income countries, middle-income countries, high-income countries, and a variety of material forms. In this case, biomass, fossil fuels, metallic materials, and non-metallic materials. So in other words, there is no economy without materials. There is no product without materials. Even digital technologies require hardcore materials without which they would not be able to function. So the key message is the consumption of the materials, our extraction of the materials is increasing in the last 50 years. And this particular trend is not sustainable. So to give an idea, in case you would want to have a simple concept in your idea, the use of materials increased more than 3 times in the last 50 years. So you may be wondering why 50 years is so important. Let me give you the context. According to our knowledge, human beings existed on planet Earth at least 12,000 years. So compared to 12,000 years, 50 years is very short. But within the 50 years, because of the rapid industrialization, rapid progress that is being pursued worldwide, we are seeing enhanced, increased, exponential consumption of the materials. That's why what is happening in the last 50 years is extremely important. And 50 years means most engineers right now who are in the very senior positions, like a CEO or CTO position, they witness this economic growth as well as increase per capita consumption of the materials. If you're a young generation entering into this world in terms of profession, you would be seeing again continuation of this particular demand for increased need for materials and resources. So since it is not sustainable, being an upcoming engineer looking for better opportunities, your goal is to figure out how to provide the same performance, same flexibility, but reduce resource consumption. So that's basically why you would want to understand the importance of circular economy, and you find your own way how you can give that particular benefit to the organization you're going to work, or you're already working, or the community you are engaged. And there's another important aspect is high-income countries use 6 times more materials per capita and responsible for 10 times more climate impact per capita than low-income countries. So what it means is economic growth generally built on the per capita material consumption. So can we achieve quality economic growth while reducing per capita material consumption? That is the primary intention of circular economy. Now, this is a busy slide, and I don't expect you to go through all the information in that slide, but we want to show you, based on the income nature of the country or the developmental nature of the country, you would see a different patterns in terms of resources consumption per person. So in other words, high-income countries may have an emphasis on a particular industry, particular value chain, whereas the low-income countries would be having a different focus. So if you are listening to this lecture from a different countries with a different income groups, or you are planning to work in those countries, you would know the emphasis within circular economy would be different. So you would have to understand the local landscape and figure out how you can contribute and also build a business opportunity for yourself or your organization. So now this is advocated very strongly by the United Nations. Recently, United Nations released a report, and I have given a URL, and it's a freely available report by the United Nations. It's called Global Resources Report. And you can download a copy of this particular report, and it has many details. And I encourage you to get a copy of this particular report. It gives you an idea what the global organizations are advocating to the governments around the world. And governments participate in the United Nations discussion, and they also agree on certain global commitments. Later on, I will explain those global commitments. For example, 2015 in Paris, more than 180 countries around the world met and agreed by 2050, they would reduce the greenhouse gas emissions to net zero. So this is agreement among the countries. And if you are a participant from Singapore with more interest in Singapore, Singapore is also a signatory for this global agreement on limiting the total greenhouse gas emissions by each country. Singapore has a plan or pledge to achieve net zero by 2050. So what this report is saying is, if any country would like to achieve net zero by 2050, focusing on renewable energy, that means shifting from fossil fuel derived energy to the renewable energy, also focusing on energy efficiency, would only allow you to reach about 45% of the emission reduction. So to realize the overall target, there is a 55% of the greenhouse gas emissions are associated with the materials and resources extraction, processing, and utilization. Let me state it again clearly. Most countries signed up to achieving net zero by 2050. In other words, they would like to limit the total greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2050. The current key policies by governments, companies are twofold. One is energy efficiency. Another one is switching to renewable energy from fossil fuel energy. So this report basically says those are good directions, but not sufficient. So in addition to energy efficiency, renewable energy, we also have to look at resources efficiency. In other words, circular economy. So allow me to show you a key messages I extracted from this report. Since I teach circular economy at the National University of Singapore, I would like to give you a clear definition based on international standards as well as the United Nations report. So in this table, I have compared what they talk net zero or net zero emissions. The other one is circular economy. Row 1, I have provided the definition. Row 2, I provided the principle. Row 3, indicators. And row 4, why is it necessary? And the row 5 are the actually key references from which I have given these definitions. So in other words, these definitions are well recognized by the world community. Why these definitions are given to you? Because there are too many descriptions in the literature and you get confused. And this is an introductory webinar about circular economy principles and basics, and also to tell you what are the opportunities for you. That's why I need to give you, in a simple, succinct way, the clear definitions. So net zero and circular economy. If I had to paraphrase and say, net zero means the emissions due to human activities should be net zero by 2050. Circular economy means you design economic system so that it is circular and less amount of waste are disposed into the natural systems like water, soil, and air. So these are the concepts behind net zero and circular economy. So this United Nations report, which released a few months ago, early part of 2024, these are the key recommendations. So I wouldn't go into the detail, but let me show you same information based on the sectors. For example, food, built environment, mobility, and energy. In each of those sectors, there are ways and means you can introduce circular economy concepts. So circular economy concept also related to energy. So conventional understanding is energy is just energy form, and we focus on renewable energy and energy efficiency. While those two aspects are true, but there is also circular economy aspects for energy. So in my subsequent slides, I would actually show you a case study of batteries where we are talking about circular economy for the batteries. Similarly, you can look at food, built environment, and mobility. And the key message is the last one. United Nations Environmental Program strongly urges all the governments as well as businesses and industries around the world start looking at the circular business models and find their own ways and means to promote circular economy in the respective countries, communities, as well as businesses. So imagine you are an engineer looking to find an opportunity, and you could also start looking at what kind of business models you can creatively come up, and that can contribute to circular economy. And based on that, you could leverage the funding that is made available by the government through the schemes, as well as the banks and investors. So they are looking for new business models which are meaningful towards sustainability, net zero, and circular economy. At the same time, they're profitable. So since I'm a professor at the National University of Singapore, I'm also managing a journal on circular economy. We felt there is a need to describe what are the principles of material circular economy. So we came up with the 10 principles, and there is a paper which has been referenced. You can download a copy of that paper to understand the specifics of each of those 10 principles. But broadly, let me explain what we consider 10 key principles of material circular economy. One is extended durability. I think you can understand that very easily. If you look at mobile devices, digital devices, which you use, many of them intentionally designed by the companies that they get obsolete or outdated within a short period of time. It could be 2 years, it could be 3 years, or it could be 5 years. Similarly, many of the textiles, what they call fast fashion, they are designed intentionally to be with a less amount of useful life. You could also look at the shoes. I have visited companies where they intentionally design the shoes, whether you use them or not, they would become obsolete. So in other words, designing products and making them available with a limited durability is against the principle of material circular economy. If you like to embrace material circular economy in your company or an organization, or you are an engineer trying to help the company to look good in circular economy, you can start thinking about how do you improve the durability of the product. Again, that requires a sound engineering knowledge, sound scalability information. So acquiring those skills, you could now help the companies and organization to extend the durability of the products without losing profitability. Similarly, there is something called the influence of products on the human health. And many products, for example, plastics. So, for example, this bottle from which I'm drinking water, this bottle is made of a plastic material. According to international community, this plastic, like many other plastics we use, contain hazardous chemicals or chemicals of concern. So we have identified more than 1,000. Later on, I will show you the actual numbers. More than 1,000 chemicals are there in those plastics. They are chemicals of concern. So in other words, when these products end up in the waste or when people are using it, they're also subjected to health effects, a wide range of health effects. So material circular economy advocates, you choose the material, you process the material, you design the product such that they have a minimal impact on the human health. Similarly, you could also start looking at the impact of these materials on the health of the natural ecosystem. And there is also another concept called how much energy or how much resources are used in making a particular product or a service. Can we lower the amount of energy that is used for the product? Can we reduce the amount of materials or resources used for the product? What we call reduce material footprint, lower carbon footprint, lower embodied energy. So by designing products and services with as lower material footprint, as lower carbon footprint, as lower embodied energy, that means you are designing, making materials and products and services with the best possible circular economic models. Similarly, the materials you choose, are they really circular? In other words, are they suitable for recycling? Are they suitable for remanufacturing? Are they suitable for refurbishing? So that's again a concept of circular economy, circularity. Later on, I will show you how to measure the circularity of products. Again, if you are an engineer trying to get into this domain, if you learn how to estimate circularity of a product or services or ecosystem, you would be able to provide necessary consulting to the organizations for a particular service fee. Again, it's a new opportunity for you to become an expert and provide your knowledge and services to organizations that seek that particular information. Similarly, we normally design materials with a singular or fewer functionalities. Can we design materials with multiple functionalities? Can we have devices with multiple functionalities so that we reduce the total resources consumption per service or per product? Similarly, we also look at the renewability. In other words, if we take things from the nature, is there a way we could renew that particular nature by a particular policies, particular way we do the extraction, and also renewing that particular natural resources? There's one more important thing in the last 3 decades. What we witnessed is materials, products are transported from one end of the planet to the other end of the planet. So that's because of the faster, cheaper, competitive shipping, as well as other means of transportation that is available. So these making things in one place, shipping all the way to the other end of the planet, actually adds to the material miles. So in the recent discussions, where the countries are looking at how to reduce the material miles for the product. So now you can again looking at designing products using locally available materials and resources. If that can be realized, you are basically lowering the material miles. So these are basically some ideas, some examples to illustrate the key 10 principles of material circular economy. Now, I promise that I will illustrate through a particular example, in this case, a battery. We all understand the battery because with our power source, our mobile devices do not function. We need to recharge all the devices. So electronic devices, many other devices require energy, and we use batteries for many things. And more recently, there is a global demand for electric vehicles. They use large amounts of batteries, but they have a limited lifespan. For example, batteries for electric vehicles, you are talking about a lifespan between 10 to 20 years. You are talking about batteries for mobile devices, maybe 1 year, 2 years, maybe 3 years. So in other words, there is going to be a large amount of batteries that would be discarded or to be discarded at the end of the life. We already see the similar things in a renewable energy sector, for example, solar panels, wind turbine blades, and so on. So with the advancement, with the digitalization, we're also seeing large-scale electronic waste generation. An important component of the electronic waste is batteries. So for example, if you apply circular economy principles for the batteries, here are the 10 principles we articulated. Again, this information is published as a manuscript in a journal, and reference is given below. You can download a copy and you can read it. So, for example, how do you charge the batteries? Is the source of energy is really clean energy. How can we change to renewable energy? That requires a lot of innovation, many business opportunities. Similarly, can we come up with a new multifunctional materials that are used in the batteries, both for anode, cathode, electrolytes, separators, casings, and everything, packaging? All that require innovations in materials. Can we reduce the total amount of material in the battery? Can we increase the product life of the battery? Similarly, can we manufacture batteries in a closed loop way, in a sustainable way? And can we conserve the resources that are required in making the batteries? And also, can we provide more transparent information so that the other users, recyclers, know how to manage discarded batteries? Right now, such information is not available. Also, how do we encourage corporate responsibility and also policies that would guide the understanding on the part of the public as well as the young generation of students. So these are more details where we take each of those principles, we identify the indicator, what are the benefits of those indicators. So I have given all that information. So, but you need more time to drill down in each of those principles and then identify specific topics that might resonate with you. So this is more comparison of linear economy, circular economy, sustainable circular economy with respect to the batteries. And so any circular economy, for it to function very well, you need cooperation among all the stakeholders, in this case, public, government, as well as industry. And it requires incentives, it requires education. For example, this webinar organized by the Institution of Engineers Singapore is exactly that. And we like to give more curated, the more latest information, up-to-date information to our practicing engineers so that they can leverage the emerging opportunities. So that's basically education, learning, or you can call continuous learning. And also require partnerships between industry and government because there are new policies that would regulate the industries and businesses. For example, Singapore introduced what it called extended producer responsibility scheme. So that is already rolled out for electronic waste. It's been running for the last couple of years. Very soon that would be applied to plastic and packaging waste, food waste, and other forms of the waste. So in other words, national regulations, national laws, policies are in a way motivate, encourage industry to change their practices. And therein lies opportunities for newcomers to provide new solutions, which are circular economic business solutions. And this slide, I show the benefits in terms of the impact of circular economy on various aspects. For example, resource consumption, energy consumption, greenhouse gas emissions, land use, and so on. So in this slide, I'm relating to national policy. Singapore government already introduced what called Green Plan 2030. And there are a number of policies as well as incentive schemes rolled out in the last few years to enable different organizations to become much more greener and adopt circular economy principles. Again, you could download a copy of Singapore Green Plan 2030 from the internet. That's available. I would not go into the detail, but I have a great admiration for former EDB chairman. And in his book, there is a view graph looking at the future scenarios for the opportunities. There's one clearly identified as circular economy. Now, I am left with another 15 minutes before I open up questions from you. So the idea is to quickly take you through opportunities in different sectors. And then also what kind of skills you can quickly develop yourself or acquire those skills so that you can decide yourself what kind of opportunities you like to pursue. So the next 15 minutes, I would take you through a series of opportunities. I wouldn't want to call that as an opportunity, but it is an interesting scenario. It's a live scenario. Just a couple of days ago, we had a major oil spill. And then several people are involved, several organizations in cleaning up the oil spill. But if you notice, there are organizations looking at how do they collect the soaked sand, separate them, and again repropose those oil as well as the sand. So the details are available in that particular slide. It's not a perfect example of circular economy, but that's the concept where you could apply this kind of thinking in every possible interesting, challenging, undesirable situations as well. But more important is Singapore Green Plan 2030. If you notice, right now, Singapore generates 20,000 tons of waste per day, and only 57% is recycled, and 41% is turned into the waste energy. So that's a view graph where we look at the total waste generated and segments of the waste that is actually processed in different ways. So there is an analysis, they say that waste to energy plants aren't perfect, but likely to have less climate impact than landfills. So I'm not advocating that we would have to further promote waste to energy plants, but Singapore has expertise, and many countries in ASEAN and beyond, they have traditionally been relying on landfills. So one potential way to look at how we can further improve waste to energy systems and provide as a short-term transitional solution to these countries and organizations, while main focus is to develop recycling, remanufacturing systems in each country. So this is about last 10 years, trash or the waste generation in Singapore, how much of that is recycled, how much of that is actually waste to energy conversion. So these are the details. And those who are talking about are interested in business opportunities. You could see here, there's a European company set up a headquarters, regional or global headquarters in Singapore. So what it means is you are seeking for an opportunity to venture out on your own. You look at what are the technologies, solutions available in other jurisdictions. You might think of how to customize those solutions for Singapore or ASEAN countries. Again, this is an example of circular economy. Similarly, our hazardous waste treatment company, ECO, is just being French group is looking in acquiring this company for $600 million. So why a global company is looking at Singapore opportunity is because hazardous waste in Singapore, in the region, is only going to grow because ASEAN countries' economic growth is increasing, per capita consumptions are increasing. They do have materials that are considered hazardous, and they need to be disposed properly. Again, an opportunity for circular economy approaches. So at our university, we also look at, we do not call it waste, we say resource sorting. It's a way we think about the waste. We should think waste as a resource, and then it's a psychological thinking. We consider waste as a resource and properly sorting them, segregating them, and then making them suitable for recycling, upcycling, and remanufacturing is the way to go. So in the previously, I mentioned about national guidelines, standards play a very important role. So what we understood is in Singapore, one of the major waste stream is a plastic waste. Among the plastic waste, packaging waste is 60% or more. And there are opportunities for plastic waste packaging, circular economy. That's why with different stakeholders, we recently released a standard. It's a Singapore standard on sustainable packaging framework and practices. So in other words, you are an entrepreneur or a young engineer, familiar with these kind of new standards, you could help the companies in redesigning their packages to be much more sustainable. Here is an example of a company in Czech Republic. I'm advising them on dealing with the flexible plastics. It's very challenging for management of the flexible plastic waste packaging because they're often commingled, they're often mixed with other contaminants. So they pose serious problems in recycling, but this company have figured out a way. But there are many other ways one could go about in this challenge. I would not want to go in for, but very interesting that even end-of-life concepts, in this case, cardboard coffin, for certain people who are conscious about end-of-life solutions. So here are the chopsticks. Again, there's a startup company. It's been running successfully. You wouldn't believe how much chopsticks are used and discarded in Singapore. Again, one could think of an innovative way to reuse, recycle, repurpose waste chopsticks. And the other one, very important, is the fast fashion industry worldwide is looking for circular economic models. And I wouldn't go into the detail, but I just give you some of the list of the companies. So these are mostly European companies that are looking into circular economy of textiles. And these are the details, specific solutions. Each of these companies are advocating or practicing. So why I show this slide is these companies did not exist 50 years ago. So these are companies came into picture in the last 10 years. And textiles is one of the largest waste stream in the world, contributes to the greenhouse gas emissions. It also relates to huge employment. It also relates to the waste generation that is being dumped into the land. So the regulations in Europe, as certain advanced countries, now want the retailers of the fast fashion to be responsible for the textiles we all use. So that's why these companies are developing solutions to deal with the textile waste. So these are a little bit more details, and these are the processes developed by these companies. So now, if you are an engineer with a specific expertise, you would also start looking at how you can leverage this particular direction. And this is another company in Sweden, Renesel. And an important aspect is identifying the waste streams requires smart labeling. So if you're someone with experience or interest in digital technologies, again, very useful knowledge that you can apply your skills to the circular economy of the products and materials. And so here I'm showing how different digital technologies that can be used. And this is a company which I'm advising. It's called Sustain 360. They developed a digital passport using which you can actually provide a lot of information about the product, materials, their source, carbon footprint, greenhouse gas emission, and circularity. And you could also extend such ideas for different stages of the product design to the manufacturing, distribution, and supply, and end of life management. And these are the details. And I would now skip. Remember, I explained about plastic waste. Now, governments around the world, including Singapore, they are in discussion to have a global agreement on plastics by next year. Just to give an idea, 2015, the governments around the world agreed on limiting greenhouse gas emissions, or what they call realizing net zero by 2050. So now the governments around the world are negotiating. Our government is also involved. They're looking to ratify a global resolution on plastics. Plastics is a huge component in our industrial ecosystems. So obviously, we need to pay attention. And if that gets ratified, that would impact a number of industries. Again, it's an opportunity for engineers like you, how you can provide alternative solutions for the meet those new ratified goals. That is going to happen probably by next year. So I'm also providing inputs, what they call industry consultations for intergovernmental negotiations on plastics. So we also identify chemicals of concern. Here I mentioned about more than 3,000 chemicals of concern. And for example, Changi Airport looking at renewable diesel is a good example of circular economy, in this case, waste cooking oil, converting that into renewable diesel. And there are people looking at wastewater-based systems for fish feed. And similarly, looking at, for example, coffee waste husk, how you can make certain useful products from that. NUS, our professors are working on green chemicals based on the natural, sustainable circular economy solutions. And again, more answers. PUB is looking at harvesting CO2 in the ocean, and then converting that into large-scale storage, at the same time enhancing circular economy concepts. See the more details. Our major economic contributor, Palau Bukong, Jurong Island, has a massive chemical industry, petrochemical industry cluster. Again, this particular island, there are directions, plans to introduce circular economy as deeply as possible. There are numbers by 2030 and 2050, how much of circular economy in terms of chemicals and plastics and petrochemicals we like to see happen through the guidance of the national policies as well as the industry projects. And again, e-waste, there are details. I wouldn't go into that. And this is the batteries and different solutions, for example, reusing the batteries, remanufacturing, recycling. They give you a different circular economy impacts. They need to be analyzed. And this is the water, circular water example. And this is again in a building sector, reusing, repurposing buildings, used buildings, or buildings that end of life. Recently, JTC said one of the building they identified for circular economy concept. So in other words, even the building sector looking at circular economy. So the companies which are Fortune 500 list Singapore companies, again, they all would have some relevance to circular economy practices that would emerge in the future. So I'm also recently participated in a Singapore USA free trade agreement. We advocated that this free trade agreement should have principles of circular economy so that Singapore companies will have a better advantage in the global markets. And Monetary Authority of Singapore, tied up with Ant International, came up with a sustainability reporting platform. Again, there are details. I wouldn't go into the details. These are the things. Okay, since the time is limited, I'm going straight to the main punchline. These are the skills you can achieve. For example, circularity assessment based on the ISO standards. You could come up with the new solutions, new services to the industry. And this is how we compare, say, aluminum, glass bottles, PET bottles, and then scenarios in different countries. There's also a book I have written. It's called Handbook of Material Circular Economy. You could learn more from this book. And we also have produced a film. It's called Wasted. It was premiered in our Cine Leisure. I'm sure you can check it out about how circular economy is very important for the future of humanity. And different drivers, different mitigation measures, different outcomes. Basically, my punchline is circular economy is very important for the survival of humanity and also planet Earth itself. Okay. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention. And I hope I have given you in a 50 minutes time, basic idea of circular economy, how that is going to take importance in the coming years, and what kind of some opportunities you can leverage, and also some of the skills you might acquire so that you can be a meaningful participant, player, or leader in circular economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Siram, for the perspective on circular economy. Let us check if there's any questions. Okay, there is question that asks, is there sufficient infrastructure or platform in order for recycling and reuse diverse type of material in this circular economy?
Thank you. So your question gives me the sense that you are very familiar with this topic. Singapore, because a small country with a large variety of waste streams, we do not yet have a very well-developed recycling systems for all the waste streams. So you could see it as a limitation, or you could also see it as an opportunity. So depending on your background, if you are an engineer looking for an opportunity, you have a different answer. But you are an entrepreneur, you are looking for an opportunity, it's different. Or you are a company, an organization, you want to look good or progress better in circular economy, you'll have a different answer. So my main point is, direct answer is, we do not yet have well-developed recycling systems for all the waste streams in Singapore. So right now, waste streams in Singapore are channeled to the partner countries and companies near and far, and that's how some of the recycling targets are achieved. But going forward, I think when it makes economic sense, when there is also regulations as they take root, it makes probably a business case for more and more recycling systems to come into play in Singapore.
Thank you, Professor Siram. There's this question, there are several agreements being signed regard to the topic of circular economy. In your professional opinion, do you think there's a need for legislation to enforce on it?
Thank you. So generally, the businesses around the world, they respond to the legislations. This has been my understanding when I look around the world. Same is true in Singapore. The businesses, industries respond to the legislations. So Singapore already has a Resource Sustainability Act, has been ratified through the parliament. That was done. Based on that particular RSA, Resource Sustainability Act, now there are subsequent policies are coming into the picture, which is called Extended Producer Responsibility. Has been rolled out for electronic waste, not yet been rolled out for other waste streams. So that would take shape. In addition to that, there are further policies like beverage container return scheme, which I'm also involved in about this particular scheme put forward by our National Environmental Agency. So again, that particular new policies are coming in. So I have the same feeling as you. The regulations and policies guide the businesses. Customers' preferences and choices also makes a huge difference. So I think it's a combination of policies of the governments, regulations. At the same time, customer behavior would fundamentally shift the transition from a linear economic model to the circular economic model.
Thank you, Professor Siram. In your presentation, you mentioned several times on net zero by 2050. Do you think beyond 2050 there would be a desire to hit net sub-zero? And is it possible?
I'm born optimist like you, and 2050 net zero is the stated goal by the governments around the world. Before COVID-19, that is 2019, I have seen accelerated take-up or momentum by the countries around the world. But during the period of COVID-19, right after COVID-19, geopolitics, as well as the economic issues, somehow dominating the governments, and some of the governments are not as pushy in terms of transition towards net zero. So in other words, by 2050, we may not have a full realization of net zero. We will see a overrun beyond 2050. So if you are in your 20s, I think you have a long runway. You could see beyond 50 years, because your work life can be 50 years ahead for you. So in that 50-year time frame, I would not think every country would become net zero, sub-net zero, but some companies or some countries might do that. So if you can develop your networks and hone your solutions, you might be the leader, front runner, and then something others can look up to you. So while I'm an optimist, and I really think it's needed, because without circular economy, with the worldwide population reaching 10 billion and increasing their per capita consumption, it's just not sustainable. So in other words, circular economy is needed. The question is, how exactly we transition to circular economy is not a simple one single solution. This would be many, many solutions by many, many players. And each of those solutions, they may appear perfect when we start doing it, but we have to revisit each of those solutions as we analyze the impact of that particular circular economy solution. So right now, there is no 100% perfect solution. Any solution has to be further improved as we go into the future.
Thank you, Prof. Siram. On that note, we'd like to thank you for your professional presentation and the advice. It was really giving us a different perspective about circular economy. And we would like to thank our audience for being such wonderful audience, for so many wonderful questions that have been posed ahead. I thank you for attending this. This has been the session by Professor Siram, who is sharing on circular economy, principle, scale, and business opportunity. Thank you for attending, and do look out for our next session at 2 o'clock, which we'll be presenting on the Housing Development Board representative to drive on sustainability and enhancing built environment. Thank you so much, and we look forward to see you in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you.